Hello and welcome to the Cannes Parallel Challenge 2024. My name is Arno.
And my name is Matt, and today we'll be talking about the Brazilian filmmaker Karim Aïnouz's films Futuro Beach and his new film Motel Destino.
So Karim Aïnouz is already back in competition after last year's Firebrand. Crazy scheduling coincidence here. Aïnouz is a Brazilian filmmaker with Algerian ancestry, and he speaks about that openly in interviews. He's even made a documentary about it, Mariner of the Mountains. He studied and worked in the US. He was even mentored by Todd Haynes. Madame Sata, which we did a parallel of last year, was his first film and played in the Un Certain Regard section at Cannes. But it's not until Invisible Life in 2019 where he really came onto people's radar when he won the top prize in Un Certain Regard. He's thus become a staple of the festival since 2019, premiering 3 additional films up until now. When I watched Invisible Life in 2019, I knew I was seeing the work of a major filmmaker, and Mariner of the Mountains just further cemented that for me. We decided to go with Futuro Beach in part because it seems to have some parallels with Motel Destino. It premiered at the Berlin Film Festival in competition in 2014.
Futuro Beach tells the story about a lifeguard who, after failing to save someone from drowning, he retreats into a past relationship with a German tourist, which began when he saved that man from drowning. Aïnouz utilized elements of melodrama within stories about queer relationships, and that's definitely present in Futuro Beach. But this film was honestly just a little bit uninteresting to me. The story offered no new ideas, characters felt flat, visuals were often very interesting in how they shot the beach, but the filmmaking lacked a certain dynamism that Invisible Life and Madame Sata both had. I was pretty disappointed with this film overall.
I, on the other hand, disagree here. I think there are a lot of clear visual motifs, but thematic motifs as well, that are explored and that make the film just as interesting as any of Aïnouz's other works. Lots of parallels we can make with Invisible Life here in particular, notably the absence of elements. The same way that both sisters long for each other in Invisible Life, we feel the absence of the beach. The scene, for example, where the little brother just observes the cyclical aquarium as if trying to find his brother through what he connects to. And visually speaking, there may not be any more striking visual in our challenge than the motorcycles and the foggy, empty roads of Germany towards the end of the film.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because to me, the beaches just stood out so much more. I loved those shots of the empty beaches with the motorcycle driving right down the middle, the line between sea and earth just really present as the metaphor kind of unfolds through the film. But I did find that the plot felt very forced. This can often be a trait of melodrama. We often see these very exaggerated stories, but here it felt like it was aiming for naturalism in the performances, in the shooting style, which made the story feel even more ridiculous and contrived throughout.
I mean, I can understand that. I think it's certainly not fully melodramatic. I don't think he's aiming for naturalism. I think there's a certain mythical quality actually to the film. You got, like you said, a man of the seas and a man of the land. The two are like the experts in their field, and the two try to find their way together, a kinship of sorts. Finally, the little brother of Aquaman, I guess, finds himself leaning more towards motorcycles than the beach. So you have that really interesting relation.
I guess I can see some of that, and naturalism might not be the right word. Something I did really appreciate about this film is that there's lots of nudity throughout, but it never feels sensual or sexualized. It is just presented plainly, appreciating the form of the human body without ever needing to go into the sexual qualities. I see many reviews on Letterboxd referencing Claire Denise's film Au Travail, and I can see a lot of parallels in how it shoots the male body. Although this is a fully queer film, while Beau Travail only subtly nods towards queerness.
Personally, I also really want to highlight Wagner Moura, which to me is giving a fantastic performance here. You sense the fear and the pressure he is putting on himself. I think it's a very layered role and one that evolves through a 10-year period, and you see his physical stature change throughout the years, even as simply as through the length of his hair, for example.
It is pretty cool that we're watching such an early performance for Wagner Moura when he's currently having his big breakout moment with American cinema.
And to me, this just reaffirms how Karim Aïnouz is just so great at directing his actors. I still think Invisible Life is my favorite film of his, but I think this one is a great addition to his filmography.
I think I'd still lean that Madame Sata, that's still my favorite.
Motel Destino is an erotic thriller that takes place around a sex hotel. A young man running away from a criminal gang he let down comes along as the unhappily married woman of the hotel's owner takes interest in him. The two leads are played by relative unknowns who were selected through a rigorous casting process. Aïnouz is an Un Certain Regard graduate. Invisible Life won the top prize, and so I would expect him to interest the jury here. I'd actually bet on actor for two reasons. First of all fiction films Aïnouz has made have had particularly strong performances, in my opinion. And secondly, this dude, Iago Xavier, who is in his first film here, was a result of a wild casting, and so I'm assuming he is a fresh discovery that will fit his role perfectly.
To that point, I could totally see that this could be an acting winner because, as we've learned this year and last year through the Parallel Challenge, Karim Aïnouz knows how to direct his actors. If there is a very surprising winner for the Best Actor prize, I would bet on this film.
And to me, this just reinforces the links that Aïnouz has not only with Haynes, but also a filmmaker like Almodovar, who loves his actors. In the next episode, we go crazy with Gilles Lelouch's Sink or Swim and his ambitious 3-hour tentpole Beating Hearts.
So join us as we discuss one of the wildest sounding films of the Cannes Film Festival.